Welcome to terror at Collinwood. 'Tis I, Penny Dreadful, being usurped by that despicable doppelganger, Danielle, and I welcome you to the show. I am very eager to get to today's episode with Jean Graham. We're going to talk all about ShadowCon, fiction, future of Dark Shadows, all kinds of really cool stuff. But before we get to the show, I want to remind you of the Dark Shadows 60th anniversary event that will be taking place in Los Angeles on July 31st, August 1st, and August 2nd, 2026. Donna Wandry, Roxanne Drew, has been added to the guest list. So we have another Dark Shadows cast member coming to the show, and hopefully we will have some more Dark Shadows cast members and crew members coming to the Dark Shadows 60th anniversary event, festival, whatever you want to call it. What I do know is that you can get tickets through Eventbrite, and the link is in the show notes to those, as well as to the hotel. I think most of the rooms are sold out at this point at the festival rate, but you can see what you can do. Maybe they can get you in for one of the days. There are also nearby hotels, so there are options. There are still options, so get on that. But don't wait too long, man, because you don't want to miss out, so snag those tickets. Now, I want to let you know about something else. Past Terror at Collinwood guest Catherine Gonzalez, who along with Bobby Lugosi was on the episode where we discussed the ghosts and revenants of Dark Shadows, has launched a groovy new Dark Shadows podcast of her own. It's on YouTube. It's called The Back Room at the Blue Whale, and it's a really cool podcast. Her inaugural episode features the one and only Sharon Smith Lentz, aka Sarah Collins herself, and the lovable and wonderful Guy Haynes. So you don't want to miss Backroom at the Blue Whale. Be sure to subscribe. I'll put a link in the show notes to Catherine's YouTube channel. Now, another thing I want to let you know about, this is a new licensed Dark Shadows product from the Shadow Collection. It is a Dark Shadows 60th anniversary commemorative coin spearheaded by Scott Young, who is mentioned actually a few times in this episode. You've heard Scott back in the Darker Shadows and Other TV Pitches of Scott Young episode. Perhaps if you listen to that episode, Scott is the mastermind behind the Shadow Collection. This is a really cool looking commemorative coin for the 60th anniversary of Dark Shadows. I'm going to read you some information here from the reservation page. The coin itself, for the audio listeners, features Collinwood on the front, engraved on the front of the coin. It says 60 years on it, and then the back of the coin says 1966 to 2026. It says Dark Shadows in the Dark Shadows Gothic font, and underneath it says a Dan Curtis production. This exclusive silver collection coin was created by the Shadow Collection to honor 60 years of Dark Shadows. It's a limited edition item available by reservation only. Each reservation secures one coin from the official production run. The coin contains 1/4 troy ounce of 0.999 fine silver and will be struck with an antique silver finish. Its final diameter will be approximately 25 millimeters, matching the proportions shown in the approved mint design. Concept images on this site represent the intended appearance. Minor differences may occur during production. Each coin includes a matching serialized certificate of authenticity. The number engraved on the coin will correspond to the number on the certificate. Your reservation guarantees one numbered coin from the limited edition of 300. The coin itself is $125. So if you want to reserve your Dark Shadows 60th anniversary commemorative coin from the Shadow Collection, you want to jump on over to the reservation page. It says reservations are processed through PayPal, and you may pay with a card even if you don't have a PayPal account. Before checkout, you'll review a short reservation terms page. You can accept the terms and continue or decline and return to the site without placing a reservation. Products are available for shipment only within the United States. That's a bummer for fans outside the United States. I do know there are Dark Shadows fans definitely in the UK and in Canada, because sometimes I look at the analytics on my website, and while the vast majority are in the United States, I do see a few from the UK and Canada as well. But if you're outside the United States, maybe you can get a friend to order for you, and then they can ship it to you. So that's one way to do it. So I'm not going to read it. There's a lot of information on this website. I will leave that to you if you want to order this limited edition commemorative coin. But I will, of course, include a link in the show notes to the reservation page. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The last coin I'm aware of that we had for Dark Shadows was a an unlicensed one in the 1970s during Mardi Gras, and it had Barnabas and Vampire Carolyn from House of Dark Shadows on it, as I recall. But yeah, there was a coin that was tossed out during Mardi Gras in the 1970s. So continuing on here, Craig Hurd McKinney was kind enough to send me a link to the Curse of Dark Shadows book release live reading of Dark Shadows episode 349. So this was a reading of the script from episode 349 of Dark Shadows as a way to celebrate the release of the Curse of Dark Shadows, a graphic novel which was officially now released to comic shops and bookstores. You can pick up a copy and you can watch the reading of episode 349. There were several actors who read the script. It was really fun. I just watched it yesterday. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can check that out. It's, of course, the episode where Barnabas has aged to his true 200 plus years. And now he's even older than that. He's 260 plus years old. And here's something else I want to let you know about. Cryptology magazine, Retro Fan magazine. These are wonderful magazines. In fact, Guy Haynes was just on the podcast talking about how he's writing an article for a future issue. And these are published by Tomorrow's Publishing. They put out some great magazines. And Lee Rosenblum was kind enough to get me the contact information for John, the editor of Cryptology and Retro Fan. And you'll be seeing a Terror at Collinwood advertisement coming up. Of course, it's the Paul Garner advertisement that you may have seen in previous publications. So Cryptology number 9, which is a Dark Shadows issue with a great cover on it, and I believe it has an interview with Catherine Lee Scott herself in it. That's shipping in May, so you want to make sure you pick up Cryptology number 9. And then Retro Fan number 45 is going to be coming out. Now, that's not a Dark Shadows issue, but there may be some Dark Shadows content in it. I'm not sure about that, but that'll be coming out in June. So pick those up, and thank you again, Lee, for hooking me up with John. P.S. After I posted episode 124, I realized I had made a mistake. I said that the Ben Cooper trick-or-treaters, the trick-or-treat kids, were from Trick-or-Treat Studios, and that Trick-or-Treat Studios owned Ben Cooper, and I know very well that's not the case. I don't know why I said that. I must have had Trick-or-Treat on the brain when I was talking about the Ben Cooper Halloween kids. They are actually put out by NECA, and I knew very well that they were put out by NECA. Trick-or-Treat Studios owns Don Post Studios. They do not own Ben Cooper, so apologies for that error. And now I am so excited to get to today's episode with Jean Graham. We're going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff, including a look back at ShadowCon, the first Dark Shadows convention. Let's get to the show. Welcome to the strange and unsettling world of terror at Collinwood. 'Tis I, Penny Dreadful, and I am thrilled, I am delighted and honored to be joined today by Jean Graham, who has been a fangirl since 1964 when she fell in love at age 11 with a TV spy named Illya Kuryakin. She wrote her first fan fiction then and continued writing about as well as publishing zines for The Man from U.N.C.L.E, Star Trek, Blake 7, Dark Shadows, and many others until the 1990s when she began selling her pro fan fiction to anthologies and magazines both in print and online. One of the founders of ShadowCon, she has a long history with conventions and multiple fandoms, but says that Dark Shadows will always have a special place in her heart. Welcome to the show, Jean. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Well, thank you.
Oh my goodness. Look, Jean is one of these guests here that I have been wanting to bring on for a while. And when I had Scott Young on the podcast, our mutual friend Scott, he talked about you quite a bit. And when I had Kathy Resch on the podcast, of course, she also talked about you quite a bit. And I said, I got to bring Jean.
Everything.
What's that?
I should deny everything.
Deny everything. Yes.
They,
It was all good things. They all sang your praises, and for good reason, because you have been an instrumental figure in the history of the Dark Shadows fandom. And of course, this year being the 60th anniversary of Dark Shadows and the big 60th anniversary event, which is the final big official Dark Shadows event, you were one of the founders of the very first Dark Shadows convention, ShadowCon, in 1977. So I thought it would be appropriate to have you on this year to talk about that. But before we get to all of that, you like a lot of cool, as I read in your bio there, you like a lot of cool stuff like The Man from U.N.C.L.E, Star Trek. I see for the video version here, you have that great Star Trek artwork behind you
yeah, I
there.
have a Dark Shadows poster, but I couldn't get it out of the closet. It's tacked to the wall. I would have put it up there. Sorry.
uh, as we were talking about before we started recording, I read your essay in Bob Issel's second Our Shadowed Past book, where you talked about your mom reading really great stuff to you growing up, as sort of very influential figure in your life, clearly. And Dark Shadows clearly figures into all of that. So I'd love to hear about your Dark Shadows origin story and all of the interesting things that you were into growing up.
Well, when I was little, that was a long time ago, all the fairy tales hadn't been Bowdlerized, censored yet, and they were quite violent. But children weren't so sheltered back in the back in the day. Little Red Riding Hood, example, gets eaten by the wolf
Yes.
in the original version. And Hansel and Gretel shove the witch into the oven and bake her and
Yep.
kill her in
Yes.
the original.
Yep.
Little Red Riding Hood was rescued in a gory scene where the woodsman cut the wolf open with his axe and took her out. So
Yep.
these things were kind of, I don't know, they were violent and but they always had a comeuppance, a good ending. And so my favorite children's book was called Mr. Bear Squash You All Flat. The big mean bear went around squashing every little animal's house, and he got his comeuppance finally, and got landed on a beehive. Anyway, so that was kind of the things I grew up with, and I started reading on my own very early, and writing stories very early. Uh, so it was just it came naturally, and my mom encouraged all of that, and so I just grew up with kind of dark stories. It was something we read, and I was memorizing the stories even before I could read the words. I memorized the I would pretend to read it by turning the page and know what the illustration, what it said underneath. So
Yeah.
I just grew up with that.
Uh-huh.
The Dark Shadows origin was walking home from school for lunch every day and seeing, and I think I saw a commercial for it, and I bought teen magazines with picture. I saw pictures of it, and so one day, right after school, it was on at 4 o'clock. I literally did run home. I turned it on, and it wasn't until '68 that I found it. It was on since '66, but I didn't find it until '68. But I was immediately hooked on it because I'd read about it has vampires, and I had read Dracula by then. So it was uh, it was immediately addictive, and I was one of those kids that literally did run home from school every day to watch. And my friend at the time who did not have a TV because her mom believed in books, which was good but bad. I had to tell her what happened on it every time. She would come over to watch it sometimes, but I had to tell her what happened every day, so I got to give a synopsis of what happened every day. So I was immediately hooked. It was just everything that I loved.
Yeah. No,
So
you said you had read Dracula by then?
I had read Dracula by
Yeah.
then.
Well, that's great. So you were into in addition to the fairy tale, the dark fairy tales, so you were into spooky stuff then.
Yeah, and my mother loved how, despite being a fundamentalist Christian, my mother loved Halloween. So she was atypical of
Great.
what's frowned upon by her own church.
Yeah. I love it.
she She loved Halloween. She just put decorations up everywhere, and we trick. Oh my goodness! I lived in a neighborhood of baby boomers. There was, I think, one house on the entire block that did not have 2 to 3 to 4 children, and so we had hundreds of trick or treaters, and we dressed up. Oh goodness, we loved it. And my father would buy those big old paper shopping bags full of candy bars, and they would all get given out, except what he would keep back some for us.
Uh,
And then he had, but,
that's great. And your mom would read your Wizard of Oz.
oh, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, goodness. All those books.
yeah.
She was big on reading. So we weren't just TV addicts, but
Tolkien you used to read too. You were into Tolkien, which
oh,
is
yeah,
good stuff.
Tolkien I read in junior high.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's pretty scary too. That the original Hobbit isn't so scary, although it has a dragon. But the trilogy's got some pretty dark and
Oh, sure.
scary.
The ring
Yeah.
wraiths. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Um, with regard to Dark Shadows too, you're also a big fan of The Man from U.N.C.L.E and Star Trek,
mhm,
which also have big cult followings as well. Uh,
mhm.
so, yeah, like, were all three of those like your big three as far as TV
I'd
interest?
say yes. We had before there was computers at all, before there was Facebook and media and all of that. We had something called FB that wasn't Facebook. It was called Friendship Books. There was a network of pen pals. I wrote to hundreds of people all over the world, and we passed around these little booklets that you stapled together, put your address sticker in, and you wrote down what you were interested in, and that would get passed from place to place all over the world. And that was very educational because you met people in places you'd never been, and that way, and you talked about your favorite TV shows or movies or books or all of the above. So those were a pen friend network, which is, I think, how I first met Kathy was through
Okay.
one of those because we wrote to each other. And then ShadowCon's origin was actually under the escalator of a hotel lobby, where the underground hotel lobby where many big conventions had been held. And one of the biggest Star Trek conventions was EquiCon. And in 76, a bunch of us fans that had been writing to each other in these booklets and pen pal networks got together and just, I don't know, maybe 20 of us, I can't remember how many, sat around on the rug under the escalator and started talking about Dark Shadows. And we later dubbed that, I think Kathy is the one who dubbed that ShadowCon Zero because it was before it became an official convention. The following year, um, I was helping run another big Star Trek convention here in San Diego called StarCon San Diego, and we just dedicated one room, not a big one, but one room to what we had by then named ShadowCon. And so John Carlin came and we screened House of Dark Shadows, and he was so wonderful. He we had all seen the movie 100 times, so we didn't really need to hear the dialogue in the movie. He gave us a running dialogue of every scene that he was in. It was great. He was just hilarious watching that. So that was ShadowCon one.
Yeah. So your first guest was John Carlin at the very first ShadowCon,
Yes, yeah.
and that went on for several years.
As ShadowCon, yeah. I don't remember exactly what year. There was a split when Barb and Bill Hunt and Barb Lilt, who had been sharing it, changed its name, wanted to diversify it into other fandoms, so changed it to IllumiCon. And the Dark Shadows fans were having none of that.
Yeah.
We still want ShadowCon, so they just split apart, and ShadowCon went on. I believe it did. Was still ShadowCon for a while. My years are fuzzy before Jim Pearson started Shadow Fest. So I'm not sure when ShadowCon became Shadow Fest, but
I know there was a, I think there was some overlap where the festivals had started already and there was that ShadowCon was
That,
still
that could be.
happening, but yeah,
I'm
um,
fuzzy on what year what happened, but I know I drove up to Shadow Fest after it became Shadow Fest. I'm
yeah,
not sure if there was, yeah, a coexistence
I know
there.
you, yeah, I know
Can't
you
be.
had a couple of guests there that we never really got to see at the festivals. For example, Humbert Allen Estrado went to one ShadowCon and he that was
Yeah.
the only convention
So,
he ever attended
huh.
for Dark Shadows. Do you remember any memories of Humbert at all?
Oh yeah, he
Yeah,
was so nice.
yeah.
He he complimented my one of my fanzines was about his character getting a comeuppance. Speaking of,
Yes.
and which one was it? Anyway, there was a he complimented me on the means of his characters. I
Was it
don't know.
Dark Lord? The second, you
Right.
have Dark Angel. It was a Dark Lord, I think.
I think it was Dark Lord here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's in the
He's on the
compilation.
cover. I know that.
Yeah, well, this is the
There's
compilation of
there's
all.
Dark Angel. Yeah.
Yeah, but in Dark Lord, yeah, there was a critter that a big huge bat critter that flew at him, and he made a reference to that to me.
Oh, he did. Really? Oh, that's so
he,
cool.
he said, I'm trying to remember what his wording was. You know, you're the one who did me in, something to that
Oh, I
effect.
love it. I love
He
that.
was. I still have a letter. I don't have that here, but he sent me a note about it.
Didn't he?
But
That's
he
so cool.
actually read it. What was I was amazed. You actually read it.
That's great.
Fiction.
He brought his daughter. Did he bring his daughter to that ShadowCon? I
I
thought he
hope
did.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. I know some of the people listening to this were definitely attending those early ShadowCons and involved, but many were not. I mean, the at that time, the World of Dark Shadows started in 1975.
Mhm.
There were still a couple of newsletters around, but there wasn't a whole lot in terms of the Dark Shadows fandom, and certainly as far as events where fans could gather, there hadn't been
Yeah.
anything until this took place, and this was the very beginning of the Dark Shadows fandom in terms of gathering and celebrating the show and
We
everything
had a lot of
surrounding the
fun.
show. What's that?
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It
And it
was
was
fun.
early syndication days too, because the syndication started in 75
Oh
too.
yes.
What's that?
That was a struggle.
Oh
In
yeah,
San
can you talk about that a little bit too? Because I know it was
it,
difficult, getting the show on in different
the
places and keeping it on.
channel it was on here kept bumping it off for other things when it started getting syndicated. When it was originally on, it was difficult to see because the channel was in Mexico that was showing
Wow,
it.
really?
That made things difficult. We won't go into, but the syndicator ended up dropping it. So we had one. You remember the antennas that
Sure.
portable
Oh yes.
antennas on the roof that you had to push a
Yep.
button on your TV to turn the antenna, and
Yep.
it went buzz
Yep.
click,
Yep.
turned
I
huge.
remember having the dial too.
We had to pull in, yes, a fuzzy channel from Los Angeles in order to watch it, but we did, and sometimes from Santa Barbara, which is even farther away, but we managed somehow. And if weather conditions messed it up and it wouldn't come in, I had to call a friend I had in El Cajon who had cable TV so I could listen to it on the phone.
Now, is that how you met Scott Young?
We had a group that I started in '72. It was originally a Star Trek fan club that branched out into all other forms of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, called Star San Diego. It's still around. We've been friends for 50 plus years. It's on Facebook. So he came for that, I believe, is where
Okay.
he was a kid.
Uh-huh.
It's either one of our Star Trek conventions or that meeting, one of those meetings that he joined. Yeah, I have to ask him what his very first meeting was.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he fell in love with all of the fan, fan
Yeah.
events too, and yeah, I know
No,
he was
I'm sure people listening to this too may remember you by your maiden name, Peacock, Jean Peacock. So,
probably they were in Star or the early conventions. Yeah, because we were at the first big Star Trek convention was in New York in '72, I think, and then here in LA in '73.
Uh-huh.
And we were all just in heaven. We were still teenagers too, but we were all just in heaven at that. So, and 70, there was an EchoCon 74, and I chaired that. Then it came down here, and I was chairman of EchoCon 75, which pulled in about 5,500 people. And nothing like
Wow.
Comic Con does now, but we were also working for Comic Con, setting up exhibits in '73 when it was only a few hundred people at Comic Con.
Yeah,
So
when it was actually a comic convention.
it was, yeah,
Yeah.
not a media
It's
circus.
yeah, I haven't been to it's been a while since I've been to San Diego Comic-Con. I think
Me
was it
too.
20 might have been 2017 or 2016 might have been the last one I went to, and it's just overwhelming because there are so many people there, and it's just
Too many. Yeah.
it's kind of a grind, and as fun as it is, by the end of the first day, I'm just like I'm exhausted, and but I do hope this year, like I always complain about 2016. There was like very little representation for Dark Shadows, other than a very small Hermes press panel with Catherine
Yeah.
and Lara, and I hope this year there's some representation for Dark Shadows. Even more than that for the 60th, because Star Trek and Batman 66 were all over the place, but there was no Dark Shadows.
Comic
I didn't see any monkeys either, and there
Well,
should be monkeys too.
Comic Con was hijacked by Hollywood a long, long
It's
time ago.
true.
So
Yeah.
it's a big media fest.
Dan
We used to
Curtis's
have fan
daughter's camp.
panels. We used to have writers panels and fan panels. Unless you're a big name comic book writer or producer, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's still worth going to if you're a fan of all of those films and everything. I mean, it's
I
certainly
have,
worth going to once just to experience it, but it's definitely
yeah,
exhausting.
I can't even go in anymore with that many 35,000 people, whatever it is.
Oh,
That
more than 100,000. I think it
100,
was like 120,000 or some
It's,
insane
yeah,
number of people.
because
It's
I
very
have
difficult.
aclophobia, which is crowd phobia. I get compressed too much and I start having panic attacks and stop breathing. So that
Yeah,
that
not a good place to be then, for sure.
puts paid to my trying to go to Comic Con anymore. Sorry,
And you
but
can't even get into like Hall H and stuff. I mean, I saw people camping out outside to get into which is
no,
where they have the big panels for everything. And I was like, I wouldn't want to, I'm not
no,
going to pay to go all the way to San Diego to sit outside and camp out. I'll watch the panel on YouTube if I really want to see it, you know?
yeah, exactly. And as ardent a Trekkie as I was from the start, very beginning,
Uh,
no, I never loved anything or anybody enough to sleep on a sidewalk to wait to get into Sam. No, thank you.
right,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
Yep, yep.
Would not do that.
Yeah,
Even when I
exactly.
was a kid and in love with the man from U.N.C.L.E and Star Trek and Dark Shadows, I wouldn't have slept on a sidewalk for any of
Yeah. But you did sneak into the balcony at a movie theater to go watch House of Dark Shadows, which is pretty great. What was
Well,
that all about?
we had a beautiful, beautiful 1920s theater downtown, and it was in its last days in the '70s even, and they had the balcony roped off, but it was running House of Dark Shadows. So about five or six friends and I who had had a Halloween party, we were in costume, dressed up as vampires in the whole 9 yards, went and sneaked up around the rope and up the stairs to sit in the balcony all by ourselves to watch the movie. So that was the theater has now been shuttered for 30 years, and it's been in lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit trying to preserve it, and
Uh,
it's not preservable because it's full of asbestos. It's poor thing is just crumbling there
that's a
very
shame.
soon. But I have fond memories of being up on the balcony watching it, watching House of Dark Shadows.
And you had a Dark Shadows party in 1972, costume party?
Yeah. Um, oh yeah. I had a few friends in school who were into it, and we we I do have photos of that very
Uh,
early Dark Shadows fans.
who did you dress up as at your party?
Ah, what was I? I think I was a vampire. I got to go look at my
Okay.
sister. No, I wasn't. I was a witch because I had a gray wig and a tattered shawl, and that's what
Nice,
I was.
nice.
And one of the guys was a very good, very tall, dark handsome fellow who had a big black cape, and he was the vampire.
Okay. I
So
dig it.
we had fun.
That's great. I guess before we talk about some of the fanfic you wrote, what are some of your favorite memories of ShadowCon? Like, what jumps out to you as uh,
Yes.
sort of a memory that anything besides you mentioned John Carlin coming to the first one? Are there anything in terms of like the
All the guests, yeah, Lara Parker was always a sweetheart to us, and just everybody was. The guests were very, very accommodating. Michael Stroka, I remember, was. I was joining all their fan clubs, so they had to be nice to us. We were in their fan club, right? They were nice to everybody, but we. Oh goodness, we were helping. I was helping everybody find the novels that there were 32 and books plus the novelization of House of Dark Shadows, uh, Gothic novels written by Marion Ross, who was really Dan Ross. They were sort of kind of all the same book over and over, but
yeah. Yes.
but everybody had to collect them because they were Dark Shadows. And so I had San Diego had dozens and dozens of great bookstores. So I was going all around and LA both finding these so that we could take them to a dealer's table and let people have them at an affordable price because a lot of book dealers were jacking up the price even long before eBay. They were doing that knowing they were collectible, but we were doing that. I also had a photo service. Find my little brochure there because we a friend of mine bought, and Scott will remember this too, a a 35 millimeter print of House of Dark Shadows. And none of us had a 35 millimeter projector because they were these big, huge carbon arc things that only a professional was allowed to show. But what she did was cut it up into pieces, and each frame you could buy what was called a half frame slide mount and put those little single film frames into the slide mount, put them in your carousel projector, and show them at ShadowCon as slideshows.
Wow.
And also, you could have them printed. So I had this mail order photo catalog I would mail out to friends who wanted to buy copies of the slides, or more often as prints. You can't read that anymore. My photo catalog, and you could order dozens of different specific shots from the movie as little photo prints.
That's
So
really cool.
that was that was my little collectible side deal, and the fanzines, of course. And so we were just ardently loyal to our favorite shows. What can I say?
I love it. That's
There was
great.
Star Trek and Dark Shadows convention. I don't remember any man. Well, yes, there have been Man from Uncle conventions.
Oh, I imagine there must have been. Yeah.
Yeah, but most of them were back east. But
And they did a
but
new
I corresponded. I kept playing with everybody for years.
uh,
New version of the Man from Uncle.
the
Yeah,
new
it
movie.
wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
It
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
I liked it.
That's one of those that's a show I have to watch one of these days. My uncle Valdemar, who got me into all of this stuff, he liked Man from Uncle. He still I have to give that a watch one of these days. How many
Well,
seasons
yeah,
are there of Man from Uncle?
it's three and a half. It was very much a takeoff of James Bond, of course. Right at the
Yeah.
time, James Bond was a big thing. But Illya Kuryakin was a Russian spy.
Yeah. Yep.
But he wasn't a bad guy.
Yep.
He worked for they were an international organization that worked all over the world. So
Yeah.
he was on loan from
Yeah.
from the Soviet Union.
Yeah, like I know the gist of it, but I just never got to watch it at any point. But I gotta sit down one of these days and give it a watch.
It was another one of those shows where the co-star ended up becoming more popular than the star.
Yeah.
NBC had a kind of a fit because they didn't like they got hate mail. How dare you have a Russian on your show?
Aw.
Even though he was a Russian from Glasgow. The actor was from Scotland.
I love
So
it.
David McCallum, who later last show he did was NCIS. You might have seen
Yeah.
a lot of things in between, mostly British productions.
Uh,
But yeah, it was a big fandom
yeah.
too. So,
Now, all of these things inspired you to become a writer yourself.
yeah.
Professionally, you've written professionally, been published professionally, but you've also written a lot of fan fiction as well.
Mhm.
And a lot of your Dark Shadows fan fiction was very prevalent. And I remember back in the fanzine days seeing your name a lot on publications like Dark Angel, which you showed earlier, and many other publications. I remember seeing your name a lot in the World of Dark Shadows. Talk
Mhm.
a little bit about your fiction writing, if you would.
The professional or the fan fiction
Both,
or both?
well, fan fiction and how it led to the professional.
The first professional sale was in a magazine called The Horror Show, and it was a rewrite of a Dark Shadow story.
Oh,
That
great.
so that was a very small sale. And then in 1995, uh, one of my pen friends, Pat Elrod, writes as P.N. Elrod. She
Yeah.
writes entire books. Was going to put out an anthology called Time of the Vampires. So naturally, she asked me if I wanted to submit a story, so I did. So that was my first major publisher paperback short story sale, uh, and that was a story based on a trip I had taken to England and did the Jack the Ripper tour, which
Oh,
is
Whitechapel. Yeah.
Whitechapel. So my vampire was a shape shifting little demon who disguised himself as all kinds of things, including a dung beetle, and he accidentally got buried and woke up in the 60s during the beetle era and couldn't figure out what all this fury over beetles was because he was disguised as one. It was weird, what can I say? But he was a little soul sucking demonic vampire critter, not so much the blood sucking variety. So that was my first major paperback publisher sale, and I've been in dozens of other smaller print, mostly anthologies since then. But my fan fiction is still up on Archive of Our Own, and I think I'm not sure if it's in the other one. There's two big ones, right? Um,
Fanfiction.net.
AO3 Archive of Our Own is, yeah, yeah. I think it is, and I also have a web page it's on, but there's easier to get to, I think, by archive, fan fiction archive, which is very good. So it's uh, it's been a lots of fun, long fun ride. I don't go to as many conventions, but I still wish them all well because everybody's into new things. I know.
With regard to your writing and with Dark Shadows in particular, what are some of your favorite stories or topics that you've tackled in the Dark Shadows world? Like what inspired you in terms of characters or storylines or that you've tried
Uh,
to?
Goodness, I kind of liked the whole. Well, it was something that Dark Shadows really pioneered, and that was a empathetic vampire image. Because that kind of I think struck a chord with an awful lot of fans who because fans have always been ridiculed, made fun of, called nerds. You were bullied, downright bullied, oftentimes in school. So we were often very isolated from the mainstream in school. And so when we started getting together and finding out there are other people like me, it was a big thing. And this empathetic vampire character was someone with whom we could identify. You could. It was Spock was a very similar character.
Yes.
The outsider who made good. Uh, so you were rooting for Barnabas to, you know, achieve his goal to get cured. Um, and I liked the gothic romance element, not just with the main, Vicky and the main characters there, but with Barnabas and Angelique, who were, like that.
Uh-huh.
Finally, so yeah, Dark Angel was about their reconciliation ultimately, and the music. was just wonderful in Dark Shadows. I loved it. I was playing it on the. I was listening. I would tape record Dark Shadows on a big old reel-to-reel tape recorder and listen to it back and play all the music on the piano. And I originally this was my arrangements for a music book here.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so cool. I
so,
didn't know you play piano.
mhm.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, I had a 100-year-old piano. That was apropos, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, so I just did my own arrangements of
Oh, that is great.
themes. You can't see that very well, probably. My lighting is poor. I apologize for that. But
Oh, I love that.
that was Quentin's. I had Quentin's theme played at my wedding.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
I
great.
I didn't tell the fundamentalist church where it came from. Yeah, okay.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah, and then later, of course, they put out Robert Cobert put out a professional release of his original scores of this. So this got pulled off the fan market because we wanted his to obviously the legal version came out. So
Are there any in yours that are not in his, though?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure. He didn't do he put the main his book. I should have brought that in with me too. He put the his main scores. The difference being this was just a very simple arrangement for a piano, the
Yeah.
way I played it, and relatively simple. But his scores were the professional orchestral scores, so
Yeah.
you could play it on the piano as easily.
Yeah. It's
But it,
the Dark Shadows music book that was put out by Pomegranate Press. It's really cool
yeah,
too. But I didn't know you did one your own. That's really, really cool.
mm.
Yeah. Um,
It was Pomegranate Press that I think was yeah
yeah.
that was Catherine yeah,
Yeah. It was, yeah. Yep.
and Robert Covert. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's the same. Yeah, same. It's
You mentioned
beautiful.
one thing you said is this comes up again and again, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast. It's a recurring thing, and you talk about it with regard to Barnabas, in regard to Spock, and it's very true. Like there was an appeal, and during that era, too, there's that appeal to that there was the counterculture going on, but there was also that the Dark Shadows, that the characters who were different, who were other, became the protagonists of the show. And Barnabas was leading the charge there, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody, all of those people who felt different identified with those characters. And
Yes,
it was like a beacon for all of us who felt that way. And
definitely.
it still does to this day. It still resonates with people who feel that way. It's kind of it's a topic that I want to, that it comes up again and again. And I should kind of devote an episode to it at some point because it's a unifying theme, I think, with regard to Dark Shadows.
It yeah, and all of the above shows were appealing to me with that same element.
Yeah.
Illya Kuryakin was the outsider. Mr.
Yes.
was the outsider, and definitely Barnabas was the. So that same theme runs through most of what I was addicted to most severely. Definitely.
Sure.
And that's been a topic of many a panel on many a convention that I've done, and then we still have that discussion on our Star San Diego site on now and then about how we've always just been the weird kids, okay,
Yeah.
and we embraced that, you
And
know.
but it's funny now because back then, back when I was growing up, being into that stuff is like, it was very fringe. It was the kind of thing that got you picked on or made fun
Yes.
of. But now I hear, like, I teach college and I hear, like, I told this story on the podcast before too. I was sitting there like grading papers or something, and I overheard this conversation. I heard somebody mention Captain America, and I looked over and I saw this group, and it was this group of what we call like preppy kids, like the cool
Mhm.
kids, but they were talking about Captain America and Doctor Strange and, Scarlet Witch and all these characters. Like, how do those kids know who those characters are? But that's become mainstream. Those characters that I
Yes.
liked, that I've always liked, that nobody, I mean, maybe people would know who Captain America is, like most people, but Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch, I really doubt it.
Well, you can thank San Diego Comic Con for that.
Yeah.
because they have made a lot of those things mainstream that used to be hiding under the covers with the flashlight.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, before Mom found out he had the comic books.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was yeah. Comic Con has mainstreamed a lot of that, and so have all the movies
The
that
movies. Yeah. Sure.
cranking out. I can't even count cranking out a superhero movie every week.
It's a bit much. It's too much. Yeah. It's like it's
Much,
a
well, too much for me, but obviously somebody's eating it up because
yeah. It's like
keep
yeah,
making.
between Disney and Warner Brothers, it's just nonstop. Now, a, a couple of things before we wrap up. What are you working on now, writing wise? Do you have something in the works or?
It's well, some short stories that are making the rounds. Haven't sold one in a while, and I've been doing. Well, of course, we should mention Carriage House, which Scott produced, which is still out there,
Yeah.
and I did several scripts for that. And I very much enjoyed the vicarious aggression factor of being able to kill people off.
In Harwich House?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you can anybody who's ever been really nasty to you in your life, you can put into your novel or your podcast
Yeah.
and kill them off. It's
Yeah.
all there.
Yeah. And folks should listen to the episode I did with Scott Young to find out more about the Harwich House,
Yes.
podcast fiction. It's a fiction podcast, which is gothic and spooky. And if you like Dark Shadows, I'm sure you'll enjoy that as well. I know you said you don't go to conventions very much these days, but being one of the founders of the original Dark Shadows convention and with the final Dark Shadows convention coming up in California, do you think you might make it out to the 60th anniversary of it? I hope.
I have to see. I have had some health problems, and
Uh,
whether I can drive to LA, but I don't know. Maybe Scott and I will manage somehow to get together and go. I would love to go if I can.
yeah,
But
that would be
I'm not
great.
sure if I'm going to make it, but I would love to.
I hope you can make it. I really hope. I'd love to meet you in
Yeah,
person, and I would love it if they had a panel with like you and Kathy Rush on it, and maybe
I'd love to
some
do
of the
that.
other. What's that?
I'd love to do that. I have not seen Kathy in quite a while.
Yeah, she's so cool. It would be really great to do a panel with the two of you on it. Maybe some of the other founding members of the fandom would be cool to have on there. Just that sadly we lost Marcy Robin, but
Yeah, that was so sad. I'm
yeah.
losing too many friends and relatives. This is getting very
Uh,
depressing.
I know.
You get up to a certain age,
It's
but
heartbreaking. Yeah,
and then yeah, well, getting old sucks. What can you say?
yeah.
A vampire quote. But
But we have many great friends that will be reuniting at this
yeah,
60th anniversary. So, do you have any hopes for the future of Dark Shadows? I know, like Star Trek continues on. I mean, they have a big company behind Paramount behind it to keep
yeah,
pumping money into it. Dark Shadows is owned by Dan Curtis's daughters, so we don't have a big, and that's the trade-off. Like, it's actually great
yeah.
that it's not owned by a big corporation, but it's also we don't have the financial backing for like those big Star Trek and Doctor Who and Planet of
Never
the
as
Apes.
big never as big a fandom as Star Trek has had. But well, I hope it can continue in some way or another because if they're I know they're negotiating, so I can't say a whole lot about attempts to sell a new version of it, but uh, as an audio drama. But that would be great if we can, if there's another Big Finish version or something that Scott has in the pipe he'd like to sell to them. But
Yeah, he talked about that a bit when he was on here too. So, I mean, they're always we have the graphic novels coming out. There's always something that's that's coming out. But I mean, in terms of a big impact culturally, Star Trek continues to sort of be in the public zeitgeist, in the cultural zeitgeist, and I'd like to see. I don't know. Sometimes I'm torn about that. Sometimes I go both ways on that because some days I'm like, I don't know if I would because it might. it might get ruined in some way, and then
It can tend to cheapen it because yeah, too many sequels. I think that syndrome has hit Star Trek definitely.
you think so? What do you think of the new Star? I know a lot of people like Strange New Worlds. I don't.
Ones I enjoyed. I
Yeah,
thought that was very well done. You can't cling too hard to canon, as a lot of fans get upset because they change something. You can't do that because they can't possibly follow every single original idea. But yeah, not I have not seen the new one, just little bits of it, the newest one. But I think some of it has just overdone it and went to the point where you didn't really find any character in there you cared about. You need empathetic characters. I think the best sequel series Trek did was Deep Space Nine because you had some empathetic characters that
yeah.
really you cared about them. Some of these others, you don't care if they get killed in the next scene. So that doesn't work for me. But I yeah, I would love to see Dark Shadows come back as another movie, but sometimes revived TV series really bomb. So I don't know about that.
Well, I guess if we draw a parallel to The Man from Uncle, for example, is
Yeah,
how is The Man from Uncle fare in terms of pop cultural awareness and continued interest and new things for The Man from Uncle? Like we had a new movie that came out for that a few
yeah,
years ago, but what
they
else?
did manage to do a new movie, and it did fairly well. And it
Uh,
wasn't bad. I enjoyed it,
uh,
but sometimes they revive a TV show and they make so many changes that you hate it. I mean,
yeah,
they just destroyed it.
like Kolchak.
Somebody online, yeah, somebody online said we need someone called a bonker to stand on every movie set where they're reviving an old show, and where they start saying, "Oh, I think we should make this Blake Seven a good example, British
Oh,
dirty
sure.
outer space. Let's make Avon a sexy blonde." And so we need somebody with a big dictionary to hit him over the head and say, "No."
Where do I apply for that job?
Me too. I
Yeah,
would apply for it too. So I would be hesitant about somebody trying to do that with Dark Shadows and just change everything so much it's not the same idea anymore.
right.
You've messed everything up.
Yeah.
Now, there are exceptions to that. A lot of people love the new Battlestar Galactica for that reason because they did switch genders on a lot of people, but they made it a much more adult show.
Sure.
I still love the old one, cartoony though it was, but
Uh,
silly though it was. But so some things succeeded and fans loved them. Other things not so much.
well,
So
Lost in Space was, I believe that was pretty successful. I love the original Lost in Space. I haven't watched the new one, but my friend Ted, who's been on the podcast, was one of the people involved with that new Lost in Space. I don't know I don't know if it was
I
fans of
didn't
the
I
original liked
didn't
it,
see
but
it.
what's that?
I didn't see the new one, so I can't
Oh, okay.
say. But,
Yeah.
well, the old one was purely silly camp anyway. It was
I
never
guess the first season was a little more serious,
oh,
but then it
yeah.
went with Dr. Smith and the robot became more
Well,
prominent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they stole the show.
Yes, yeah. Well, they were so funny. I mean, it was like a
They were
comedy team with
hilarious.
those two.
He was hilarious.
Yeah. uh, anyway, well, Jean, it was so great getting a chance to talk to you. I really appreciate you taking the time today to sit down with me and talk about your experiences with ShadowCon and with your fiction. And I know it's definitely not easy to travel but I hope that you can make it up to
Well,
LA.
I'll have to see if I can. The other problem is I don't have a budget for the hotel rates these days, so I don't know about
Uh,
that. We'll see.
uh,
But
maybe you and Scott could team up and split a
hmm,
room or something.
he's tough. So maybe we'll figure something out
Yeah,
for get there at least one day. Maybe I don't know. It
that'd
didn't
be
used to be a problem. LA was just that next door. You just drive up there for all kinds of cons, but not don't do freeways so much anymore.
yeah.
So
Well, it's a little scary driving on the freeways there. So
especially in LA, yeah.
yeah,
So we'll
but
have to see. But I'd
yeah,
love to go see
wonderful.
everybody. That'd be great.
That'd be great. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will want to see you, want to meet you for the first time, and also would want to see you again. I'm sure a lot of our mutual friends would like to see you. I just had Guy Haynes on the podcast. I'm sure
Hey,
he'd
guy.
Sure, he'd be happy to see you. And for sure, folks, if you be sure to check the links in the show notes for tickets to the Dark Shadows 60th Anniversary Festival for Eventbrite and for the hotel. Hopefully, there are still tickets left for the hotel by the time this episode goes up. I can't guarantee that. They are really going fast. So grab those tickets if you want to go. Also, Jean, if you would, please send me a link to the archive where your fan fiction is so I can include that in the show notes as well. And everyone, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Please be sure to rate and review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I really would appreciate that. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, please give it a like. Please give it a subscription. That does help the podcast grow. It'll help the podcast reach more Dark Shadows fans. And thank you very much for listening. Terror at Collinwood is a Penny Dreadful production.